And we're back with Ken Gronbach. George Norrie here with you. Ken's website is linked up at coasttocoastam.com. Ken, what's going on in like India that has this huge population? What's happening to them?
Well, they're kind of an enigma. They have a population of about 1,400,000,000. I guess the best explanation you might find in Mumbai, their financial capital. If you look at Mumbai from an airplane, there's like a limited access highway that divides one side from the other. And on one side you have high-rise apartments and office buildings, and it looks like a modern city. And then you look at the other side, and it's metal boxes where people live without water or sewer. So I think the cultural issues are going to kind of stymie India for a very, very long time. We have about 5 million Indians in the United States, and we believe that they send us their best and brightest. So I don't see a lot happening with India. I really don't seeing it becoming a manufacturing mecca.
Let me ask you a demographic question about Amazon.com, which is, I think, contribute to some of the retail outlets shutting down because people are buying online. Is there a certain demographic that will buy on Amazon online than another demographic, or is it wide open?
Well, it seems to be dictated by age, and we're seeing, 10-20% being taken away of brick and mortar retail being taken away online, and most of that occurs with young people, with the millennials.
So that's not good because if they're trained to buy. Go ahead, Ken.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So what will happen? I think this will balance out. I really do, and I think that you will see continued increase with Amazon type commerce, but I don't think the increases are going to be as large going forward because of Generation Z. And Generation Z is actually smaller than the millennials.
Do you see a whip around with bricks and mortar?
Yeah, I'll tell you why. Because the millennials and Generation Z, as we look at their psychographics, they tend to like experiences, and the ordering stuff on the phone really is not the same as going into a store. So I think you will see a resurgence of brick and mortar.
And then on the other hand, because of the crime and stuff, people are being, accosted near their vehicles. Cars are being broken into, stolen. It might be safer just to buy online.
Yeah, that's true. Let me tell you something about crime, which is kind of interesting. The police we have right now are Generation X, for the most part. Generation X was not a good talent pool. It was too small. You can read into that all you like. Who commits crime? Crime is committed by men, and men commit crime at a rate of 10 times what a woman would do, and men commit crime from 15 to 30 years old, about 70% of the crime in the United States. That group's, I think, actually getting smaller. So we're going to have the labor pool for police is getting much better with millennials, and the labor pool, if you will, for criminals is getting smaller. So we're going to have less crime and better cops.
Interesting. I hope you're right there. Let's take some calls.
I believe me, that's correct.
Ted is truck driving in Wyoming. Get us started here. Theodore, go ahead.
Yeah. I live in Florida. I'm a boomer. I was born in San Francisco. I keep an apartment there. And then my real home now is in Honduras. And I drive across the country from coast to coast constantly, so I get to see new places put up. I disagree. I think growth is almost a swear word. When you talk about, half the people in China, well, now they've got twice the material possessions. I look at graphs and see the world population just going up and up, and then I look at the ocean's resources, which is how I look at the planet through the ocean primarily. It's that plankton that makes our oxygen and everything. So I'm kind of anti-growth. And as far as Hondas are concerned, my motorcycles are Transalps when they imported them in 89 and 90. And for the first time this year, Honda is going to import the Transalp into the United States. So I'm looking forward to the latest and greatest. And that's about all I had to say.
All right, let's get your thoughts on some of that, Kenny.
Cool. Well, the unfortunate thing about population shrinking, because of global warming, everyone says, we really do need to have fewer people on Earth, and our carbon issue wouldn't be so bad. Not so. The issue is an economy to survive really needs to constantly increase, even if it's just slightly. We don't know how to reduce in size, and so if we just stopped having kids, essentially, I think you could wipe out mankind. You certainly could wipe out mankind's economy. You could wipe out the culture as we know it.
Are these demographic trends, Ken, fixable? I mean, can you actually look at the trends and then say, we have to do something about this because 20 years from now we're going to have a problem? Can you fix that?
Yeah, you could. Well, Elon Musk steals my stuff. And I don't mind. I tried to call him. He won't take my call. He says that unless we don't have kids, we're going to collapse the Earth, and it's true. It's just absolutely true. We really need to have more children, and without the children, there's no reversing this. You can't fix it.
So it really comes down to population, doesn't it?
It's always population, always. And if you cannot. China tried it. China said, what happened? I think it was Henry Kissinger that persuaded Mao Zedong to, try the one-child-only policy, and then Hu Jintao picked it up. But they were fearful that the West would not take them seriously if their population kept on increasing geometrically. So they went to the one-child-only policy. But then only discovered later on, after having been into that for like 35 years, that it was a blunder beyond measure. You can't do it. You cannot shrink your population. Period. You can't do it.
First-time caller Valerie in West Virginia. Hello, Val. Go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, I'm 52 years old, and this is my first time ever calling in my life. So thank you for taking my call.
Welcome to the program, and that would make you a Gen X, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
And I love the show. I'm in healthcare, and I've heard about the baby boomers being referred to as a senior tsunami coming our way with having to care for the elderly folks and not having enough people to do it here for a little blip. But back to the brick and mortar turnaround, I wanted to comment that maybe are you seeing that maybe some of those brick and mortar buildings will be turned around for more skilled nursing facilities or more housing opportunities? And then my question is, how do you see AI impacting our future as far as the advancements are so exponential and going so rapidly? How will that be? How do you see that affecting our population and our economy, our jobs and labor force, and like telehealth? I just see AI taking over so many opportunities. It's just hard to envision.
Is AI going to step in and wipe out some demographics, Ken?
That's a good question. And let me just back up a second. And first of all, you will see a ton more healthcare facilities, a ton more. And you're also going to see housing, a ton more housing, and a ton more building in general. AI freaks me out. And I can't be definitive about AI because I don't know enough about it. Just like we didn't know enough about the internet back in the 80s. Now we have this situation where literally, if programmed directly, robots could hate us. I'd hate to think that, but I can't give you a good answer on that. I can only tell you to stay tuned. We'll watch this happen, and I think it's going to be serious, but AI freaks me out.
Brendan's with us in Austin, Texas. Hi, Brendan. Go ahead.
Hi. Thank you, George and Kenneth.
Sure. You got it.
Every time you come on, it makes me think, which I appreciate. And some stuff I agree with, other stuff I don't. I feel like that's just totally natural. And like I said, I appreciate you making me think. And I have some stuff I agree with and other I don't. But I think maybe you should go back and look at the hippies' intellectual message instead of just writing them off as young and dumb. Because what they were saying about the global imperialism is how the majority of the countries on Earth got to not producing babies, economic crisis, crumbling civil rights, perpetual war. There's a book, Global Imperialism and Global Inequality, printed in 1984 by Gordon and Breach Science Publishers. You should check that out. But with your theory of conflict regarding division and hippies, and maybe it's just a slip of the tongue, but with the whole Caucasians being indigenous people of the USA, that stuff I'm not sure that I agree with. But what I did agree with was about what you said about India, and that India has a higher population than China, and they're having cultural problems. And India is a country that historically for thousands of years has been a secular nation where you could practice whatever religion you wanted to. Jainism, Buddhism, Hinduism, that all came from India, and they have a big Islamic population. Well, their leader now is like racist and prejudiced against 50% of the population, not even exaggerating. And that's like nearly 2 billion people, like you said. That's a big tinderbox. Well, I'm a fan of Hinduism, so I have to say that the violence conducted by Hindus onto the Muslims is terrible. And violence either way is bad, no matter who it is. But people having their homes demolished because they're Muslim in India, and Modi surrounds himself with these violent racists, and he stays silent when his accomplices perform political violence. So it's very similar to Indian Trump, and they're going through a fracturing of their state identity and culture. It's very dangerous. And next door neighbor is Pakistan, who's nuclear armed. Pakistan's their government nearly collapsed this year, and this week they're doing mass deportations. So neither country is exactly stable, and that's a fight we do not want, is India and Pakistan. But thank you, Kenneth, and thank you, George.
You got it, man.
Thank you. And I didn't hear you say anything derogatory about hippies. You merely use that phrase. You use that phrase as a generation.
I can remember my stepfather saying to me, "So you're in favor of sex, drugs, and rock and roll? Huh? You think that's the way of running the country?" And I was young then, and I said, "Well, it sounded good at the time. I don't know."
Huh. I was never into that hippie culture, but I knew a lot of people who were, and they were dedicated, smart, hardworking. They were opposed to the Vietnam War, which was the wrong war. The mistake we all made then, I shouldn't say we, because I never did, but...
Go ahead, George, say it.
The people took the troops and put them down when they came back, and it wasn't their fault.
That was a heartbreaker, and yes, that is correct. And that was a downer. That really was.
Next up, let's go to Tom in Riverside, California. To squeeze you in before the breaks, Tom. Go ahead.
Okay, George, I appreciate you getting me on this. I disagree with some of it because, look, this is our country, whether we like it or not, okay? It's right or wrong. This is our country. This is our culture. This is our tradition. Either you're with it or you're against it. But China, if they're listening to Henry Kissinger, they deserve their failure if they would listen to him. And so that's their problem. But I don't see them, if we keep slapping them in the face and Russia in the face, the natural thing is going to happen. They're going to bond with Iran and North Korea, and you're going to see Japan and Taiwan become the new labor force for China. You see, and that's the way it works. The way it worked in World War II, Germany went into the Norwegian countries. The very good, skilled technicians became their war production, and they incorporated them into, and they rewarded some of the better people there, so they could produce the war machine that they made, and it was a very, very good one, and better than ours, really. But they didn't have enough time, and they didn't prepare enough to do it. So there's some wild cards here. A1, the technology with that's coming on, and the war machine that comes into our world now and then is right there. It's ready. We got, you're discounting China like it's nothing, and they got what, 3 times the Navy we got, and they hyper missiles. And Russia, you're slapping them in the face. Stalingrad, and just think of what they went through and how determined they are right now with Ukraine, and how China is going around the South China Sea, and man, they can. It could be. There's some wild cards there that you should consider. I'll get off here. I get carried away, but we got a tradition here and a culture. I don't like what they've done. They've given. You're saying the Latinos are so great, but they've came into this country, and there's a lot of people that were in Vietnam standing on street corners right now, and our government don't care. 100,000 of them are dying each year from fentanyl that's being pumped into our country by who? Mexico and China,
yep.
and you're making heroes out of them. So I don't agree with you. So that's my 2 cents. That's what it's about.
Well, one of the benefits of the show, Tom, as you well know, and you, Kenny, is people can call in and disagree. That's what America is all about.
That is what it's all about. And the fact that we can do it conversationally.
Well, that was an interesting question. We can do that on this show, but in real life, I have found that a lot of people can't talk to each other anymore. They scream, they yell. What's going on there, Ken?
Well, I'm telling you, that's the same thing. What you have is you have opposing factions. You have right wing and left wing, and that's all you have to do is turn on CNN or Fox, and that's all they talk about is the battle that's going on. That will demographically correct naturally.
Excellent. We're going to take a short break and come back with final calls with Ken Gronbach as we talk about changing demographics and how it's going to eventually affect all of us. His website is kgcdirect.com, linked up at coasttocoastam.com, and a couple of his books include Upside, Profiting from the Profound Demographic Shifts Ahead. Another one is called The Age Curve, How to Profit from the Coming Demographic Storm. So let's come back in just a short moment and take your final calls. And welcome back. George Norrie along with Ken Gronbach as we talk about demographics. Ken, how many politicians are fascinated with demographic studies? Because you would think if they could plan that out perfectly, they'd know exactly what market to go after.
Yeah, you'd think that, wouldn't you? I'll tell you a quick story. And as the Trump people came to me and said, in 2020, what do we do? We seem to be losing our base. And I said, broaden your base, make it bigger, and you might have a chance. And they didn't, and he lost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, how could he have broadened his base? What would he have done?
Well, he would have. It would have to be a lot less conservative hard line. He would have to embrace the new generation 40 and under, the 2 new generations. And he didn't do it. And he's still not doing it. And in fact, there's just no way he can win.
Interesting take. What about Joe Biden? What do you think? 81 years old? Some say he's too old.
You know what? God bless him. I just hope I hope he stays alive. I really do. But if it was a showdown between a Biden and Trump, Biden would win. And
even though some recent polls show that Trump would beat him.
No, polls. No, I believe that Biden would win. What's happened we pick up a new conservative, we pick up a new liberal voter every 8 seconds, and we lose a conservative every 16 because they're dying. The advantage of from 16 to 20 was 25 million more liberal voters, and in 2024 it's going to be 50 million more liberal voters.
What about motivation, Ken? Who's motivated the most to go to a poll? A conservative, a liberal?
Well, I guess that depends. I'm not really sure, George, but I believe that if people feel threatened, like they're going to lose their democracy and pick up a dictator, that could be a real motivator. So, but I don't know. I really don't.
Back to the phones. Let's go to Los Angeles. Super's with us. Hey, Soup. Welcome to the show.
Hey, George. Hi, Mr. Ken. How are you guys tonight? Happy Thanksgiving.
You too, Super.
Good.
What can we do? What's your question?
I had a couple of comments. I'm curious, of course, about the digital dollar and how that's going to affect the economy for all generations, and then also if they even implement the social credit score, which I pray they don't. I know I already don't shop online as it is. That would keep me way offline if they start doing that. But my other worry is just California specifically, because if I'm really poor, I'm going to live here. If I'm super rich, I'm going to live here. But if I get a job or two, I got to get one job, two jobs, part-time jobs, and I get taxed half to death, plus my rent, so rent 30%, tax 40%. I can hardly have anything for myself. I'll probably follow all my friends that moved out that are middle class. And my last comment is just in general, about taxes, wondering if there's going to be a tax revolt someday. People just aren't going to pay for this frivolous nonsense, these large bills, these endless wars. We need to account the government for our tax money, not the government accounting us for, auditing us for, our taxes. It's our money at the end of the day. So just curious about his feelings on that.
All right. Go ahead, Kenny.
I'll give it a shot. California, I spent 8 years in California. In fact, I graduated from Cal State Long Beach. California is losing population. They have the largest population in the country.
People are moving out of that state.
Actually, they're losing population. I guess they have about 40 million. I don't know, something like that. But Texas has picked up population. Florida's picked up population. A lot of states are picking up population that aren't so tax burdensome. So I don't know what's going to happen to California. Relative to the economy, I can only tell you this, and that is that everything that I see speaks to an economy in the United States, actually in the Americas eventually, that's all of the Americas, as being very, very good. Prosperity goes a long way towards making us accept tax, does it not? So I think we're going to be fine. I really do. So don't sweat it. Don't fall on a sword.
You're optimistic. I like that. Joe, truck driving in Missouri. Hello, Joseph. Go ahead.
Evening, gentlemen. I wanted to add a different perspective and get your guys' take on it.
Okay.
It seems like Mr. Gronbach comes from a purely or mainly economic perspective on the issue, which makes sense coming from the corporate world. But humans aren't just interchangeable economic units. I mean, Japan, for instance, there was a time when Japan had half the population it does now. It was still Japan. If their population went down some, sure, their GDP number, they wouldn't be the economic powerhouse, but they'd still be recognizably Japanese, like their heritage and their Shintoism and their culture and traditions and their biological uniqueness. It would still be a recognizably Japanese Japan. And, I don't think it's fear or hatred of outsiders or foreigners that I think it's more of just like how people, we all wish other families well, but our first loyalty is to our own children, or to, in their case, to their own people. And as far as America goes, I look around our urban centers. It seems like we lost a war. Suicides, addiction, deaths of despair are up. Our life expectancy is shrinking. The wealth gap is exploding. The social trust is plummeting, and I'm just thinking, as far as young Americans having trouble with family formation and buying their first house and starting a family, these relentless waves of migration drive down wages, they drive up home prices, and I think they really make a lot of people feel like they don't have a homeland or really even much of a future. So, I was just wondering what your guys' perspectives are on the non-economic and more cultural aspects to demographics. Thanks.
Can you even separate that, Ken?
Yeah, I can do that. It's kind of a kick. The majority or the largest group, ethnicity-wise, in the United States, people of a certain descent are Germans. And it's about 70 million. The next one down would be the Latinos. And the next one down would be the Irish at about 40 million. Bottom line is, we are a nation of immigrants. And there's no getting away from it. We came from Ireland, Germany, UK, Italy, Russia, Hungary, Canada, Mexico, Cuba, Philippines, and now, believe it or not, we're actually seeing Chinese come across our southern borders because they're fleeing China. We are a nation of immigrants, from many to one.
Well, I'm all for legal immigration. I'm not for illegal. I think everything needs to be controlled.
No, you don't want illegal immigration. But right now, immigration is our strength because we're not having enough kids. And I will tell you this because this is just could be disturbing to some people. In 2007, we broke a birth record for a particular year, and that was with 4,316,000 babies. The previous record was set in 1957 with 4,300,000 babies. 25% of the babies that were born in 2007 were Latino, and just recently, the number of Caucasian babies and non-white babies, the non-white babies are a higher percentage of our total population of production of children is actually bigger. So we will be a non-white nation pretty much between probably 2040, 2050.
And I hope by then we've ended racism and everybody lives properly.
Exactly, man. It really. I'm telling you, we're a nation of immigrants.
Always have been.
Yeah, always have been.
Jeremy in North Dakota. Jeremy, go ahead.
Hello, Ken. I'm wondering, can you give me a place to research demographics more specific to my situation?
What is your situation?
Yeah, buy one of my books. If you wanted to understand demographics like you're hearing them now on the radio with us, the book would be a perfect place. Census data is very, very good. If you want to know the breakdown of any particular area in terms of ethnicity, there is this part of we pay for this with our taxes, and that is Census Quick Facts. Census Quick Facts. It actually breaks down counties, states, countries, whatever.
I'm looking for demographics more specific to surviving a near-fatal auto accident almost 20 years ago.
I don't think there are any specific demographics for things like accidents and things like that, Ken, are there?
Well, you know what's happening. The older people tend to have more accidents, and we're becoming a nation of Floridas. So we could look for auto accidents to increase for a while.
Indeed. And where do people get your books? I know they were written in 2008 and 2017. They're still out there?
You get them online, or you can get them from Amazon. That's the easiest. Or go to a bookstore.
You see, Amazon did it again.
Yeah. Well, what are you going to do? You roll with the things you can't change.
Next up, we've got James in Florida, first-time caller. Hey, James, thanks for calling.
Yes, sir. I'm honored to speak to both of you. And I have a quick question for George and then a quick question for Kenneth.
Okay.
George, I'm a boomer. I attended college from 81 to 85, and I used to listen to an all-night talk show. Do you have any idea what the name of that might be? I thought it was like All Night America. It was a syndicated show.
What was the subject matter, Jim?
It was a talk show, kind of just like yours.
Well, you probably listened to Art Bell.
It could be. It could be. I didn't know if he was on the air during that period of time.
He was on in the early 90s, primarily on a syndicated basis. You might have listened to John McCormick, which is a possibility, too.
But anyways, George, God bless you for the difference you make in this world. But Kenneth, could you just briefly speak on gold from I have a mining operation, and number two, the self-storage industry with respect to owning self-storage facilities.
Did you say gold? Like the precious metal?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I don't know anything about that. I'm sorry about that, but that's just the case. I don't know anything about gold, but self-storage, I know a ton about that. Baby boomers have the hardest time giving up their stuff. So what do? They put it in self-storage. You want to see self-storage blossom. Did you say you were from Florida?
Yeah, that's
from Southwest Florida, like you.
Okay, yeah, I'm Southwest. Self-storage for cars, self-storage for stuff, storage for boats. Yes, but it's going to be very big.
And James, what about the name Long John Nebel? Do you think you know that one?
Repeat that, George. Long
John Nebel. He did a late-night talk show, too, during those days.
I just honestly can't remember, the names, but...
well, don't forget mine, Jimmy.
I would, George, I'd never forget your name.
Okay, my friend, thank you. Ken, we've only got about a minute or so left. What can the average person do to kind of be prepared for things that happen demographically?
Well, they can be aware of them. That's the big issue, George, and I don't understand it because, in fact, in one of my videos, I started off with the line, it mystifies me why captains of industry do not understand this very simple concept. We need to be concerned about the size of our market. Is it getting bigger or is it getting smaller? And that can be where you work or what you sell as an independent business person. And you also need to be aware of your talent pool. Is it getting bigger or is it getting smaller? Because one thing spells a challenge and the other spells an opportunity. And that's what people can do is just be aware, period.
Absolutely. Ken, once again, thank you for being on the program. Keep in touch. Look forward to your next return.
You are the best, man. You take care.
Ken Gronbach, Demographics, website linked up at coasttocoastam.com. Up next, we're going to talk about something very different. Get ready.